The night he almost turned around at the restaurant door was the same night his heart learned how fragile hope could be. A poor single dad, still smelling faintly of engine oil from his second job, stood frozen as he saw the woman across the candlelit table with tears quietly sliding down her face. She wasn't just any woman. She was the CEO he'd once seen on magazine covers, powerful and untouchable, now sitting on a blind date with trembling hands, and a pain so deep it filled the room before a single word was spoken. If you believe that kindness still matters, that broken people deserve second chances, and that quiet moments can change lives, take a second to like this video, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Ripple of Kindness. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He had agreed to the blind date only because his sister insisted, promising him one evening where he could be more than a tired father counting coins at the grocery store. His life had narrowed to school drop-offs, unpaid bills, and late nights fixing cars in a neighbor's garage to afford asthma medicine for his young son. Dadding felt like a luxury meant for other people. Still, he put on his cleanest shirt, practiced a smile in the mirror, and told himself that even one normal evening might remind him he was still human. The restaurant was elegant in a way that made him feel out of place, all soft lights and polished wood, the kind of place where people talked about investments instead of rent. When he saw her sitting there, elegant but visibly breaking, his first instinct was to leave quietly and save her from an awkward meeting. But something in her posture, the way her shoulders sagged under invisible weight, kept him rooted. He took his seat, unsure what a man like him could possibly offer a woman like her. She tried to compose herself, wiping her face and forcing a polite expression, but the sadness clung to her like a shadow. The silence between them was heavy, not uncomfortable but loaded with unspoken truths. He didn't rush to fill it. Years of listening to a sick child breathe through the night had taught him the value of quiet presence. He focused on steadying his own nerves, reminding himself that he didn't need to impress anyone. He just needed to be kind. As the evening unfolded, the contrast between their lives became clearer without being stated outright. His hands were rough, marked by years of labor. Hers were delicate but tense, fingers twisting together as if holding herself together took constant effort. The restaurant staff treated her with a respect that bordered on fear, yet none of that stopped the tears from returning. Behind the title of CEO was a woman unraveling, trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside. What broke him wasn't her tears alone, but the moment she leaned slightly forward and whispered the reason she couldn't stop crying. It wasn't about money or power or failed deals. It was about loneliness so profound that success only made it louder. She was on that blind date because she had realized that despite everything she owned, she had no one who truly saw her. The whisper carried a confession that she was exhausted from being strong, from leading empires while feeling invisible in her own life. That truth hit him harder than he expected, not because her pain was greater than his, but because it mirrored it in a different shape. He knew what it meant to be surrounded by people and still feel alone. He knew what it was like to carry responsibility so heavy it left no room to fall apart. In that moment, the gap between a poor single dad and a powerful CEO disappeared, replaced by two human beings quietly drowning in different oceans. The evening didn't magically fix anything. The world outside the restaurant was still unfair and demanding. His bank account was still empty. Her company would still need her at dawn. Yet something shifted. For the first time in years, he felt seen not as a failure or a charity case, but as someone whose presence mattered. And for the first time in her carefully controlled life, she allowed herself to be vulnerable without fear of losing respect. As days passed, that night lingered in his mind. He returned to his routine, packing lunches, fixing engines, and reading bedtime stories, but with a strange warmth in his chest. He didn't know if he'd ever see her again. He didn't expect promises or miracles. What stayed with him was the realization that even the most powerful people could be quietly breaking, and that kindness didn't require wealth, only attention. For her, the encounter cracked something open. She began to question a life built entirely on achievements and applause. The memory of a man who listened without judgment followed her into boardrooms and late-night offices. She started making small changes, leaving work earlier, reaching out to people she'd pushed away, allowing herself to feel instead of perform. When their paths crossed again, it wasn't in a grand setting. It was ordinary, almost forgettable to the outside world. Yet the connection felt deeper because it was rooted in truth, not illusion. They didn't rush into romance or promises. They shared moments, small and real, learning that healing doesn't arrive in dramatic gestures but in consistency and care. What made his heart ache was not that whisper of loneliness, but what it revealed about the world they lived in. A world where a woman could own everything and still feel empty, and a man could have nothing and still offer compassion. That night taught him that heartbreak and hope often sit at the same table, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show up honestly. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own quiet struggles or the unseen battles of others, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and stay connected with Ripple of Kindness. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Comment below with one word that describes what this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they help build a community rooted in empathy. In the end, their story wasn't about a poor dad meeting a CEO. It was about two souls colliding at their weakest and discovering that kindness can bridge any divide. Not every wound healed, not every problem vanished, but something far more important was born. The courage to keep going, the reminder that no one is truly alone, and the quiet truth that sometimes a single whispered confession can change the direction of a life forever.